Hi, my name's Mark, one of the pastors here at Trillium. You know, our culture today is training us to be victims, but we don't have to be. I mean, just look in the news. Donald Trump, President of the United States, yet one of his constant rants is that he's the victim of the deep state, of Congress, of the courts, of the news media, fake news. What's fake news? A claim that he's innocent before the intentional, willful misreporting of the news media. There's Hillary Clinton. In her latest book, she's claiming to be the victim of Russian interference and misogyny. And that's an explanation for her defeat in the 2016 election. You go through the news stories. I encourage you and start paying real attention to the claim of victim status overtly and covertly in the stories, and it will become, I think, apparent to you, as it has to me, that there's a proliferation going on in our culture today for the claim to be a victim. I was reading an article a couple of weeks ago about this Indigenous woman law scholar coming up from the States to lead the faculty of law at an Ontario university. And yet only 2 years into the job, she's resigning, claiming to be a victim of systemic racism at this institution. Yet only a couple of paragraphs lower in the story, this dean of the faculty of law is herself the subject of a complaint of reverse discrimination brought by a white Caucasian blonde woman who said she has been treated unfairly by this faculty of law dean in the university. So in one story, there are competing claims to victimization, victimhood going on in it. And I'm suggesting to you today that we are being trained to understand ourselves as victims. In our relationships with each other, at work, at play, whatever we're about, we better get for ourselves a claim to victimhood if we're going to stay relevant in this culture. And I think that has really horrible consequences for us. Because at the core of life that makes the cohesion of our culture work is an assumption that in spite of all the differences, gay, straight, black, white, male, female, old, young, adult, child, religious, non-religious, at the core of all these differences is a common humanity that unites us. And if we all become victims ultimately, then it seems to me that none of us in the end will be able to be victims. Everyone's a victim. There won't be any victims anymore. And people who are treated truly unjustly and unfairly will have no voice to speak their claim to the culture, to the world. You know, interestingly, in the ancient world, a victim was understood to be guilty. I mean, victima in Latin literally means anything or anyone offered for sacrifice. And if something was offered for sacrifice, it had to be guilty. That was just an assumption in the culture. Every culture had that in the ancient world. There were no such things as innocent victims. And then there's the story of Jesus and his passion. You know, he was the first openly declared innocent victim, interestingly enough. It must have been very incongruous for an ancient person to hear that claim, innocent victim. And yet the gospel writers keep reinforcing this notion of Jesus' innocence. And we've lived under its influence in the West for 2,000 years. It shapes the way we see the world. It shapes the way our law has developed. It shapes the core institutions of our culture today. It's such a powerful impact for us. To be a victim in 21st century Canada, you have to be innocent. If you're not innocent, then you're not a victim. And it's so tempting for us to claim the victim status for ourselves and proclaim to the world our innocence. But it's a trap. It gets us nowhere in the end. Yeah, life's hard. Yeah, life's unjust. Life's complex. It's difficult. It is at its core a struggle for us as mortal, fragile creatures to live with other mortal, fragile creatures. Yet the gospel of Jesus and his death and resurrection teaches us that as we move through life together, there is a power at work within us, a power that will reveal to us our true nature, which is one of love and hope and forgiveness and peace.